Our next item is item 2.09, a review item, a presentation on closing the gaps, achievement, discipline, and opportunity.
It's not meant to measure effort, it's meant to measure test scores. Data is frustrating. Data is what matters. It's not meant to measure effort, it's meant to measure test scores. Data is frustrating. Data is what matters. It's not meant to measure effort, it's meant to measure test scores. Data is frustrating.
I understand.
I can't stand up.
I can't reach.
I can't win.
I can't fly.
I can't find it.
I can't make it.
I can't understand.
I can't graduate.
I can't swim.
I can't survive.
I can't see. I can't feel love.
But maybe with a little encouragement.
Structure.
Guidance.
Faith.
Hope.
Understanding. Help. Confidence. Assurance.
Bravery.
Friendship. Outreach.
We can make it.
I can't stand up.
Yet.
I can't reach.
Yet. I can't win.
Yet.
I can't fly.
Yet. I can't find it.
Yet. I can't make it.
Yet.
I can't understand.
Yet.
I can't graduate.
I can't survive.
Yet.
I can't see.
Yet.
I can't feel love.
Yet.
If you look past the data, I actually enjoy learning and growing and becoming a better person, not a better grade.
If you see through the numbers, you'll see I prefer quality over quantity of information.
If you don't look at the data, you see I work too hard to not be recognized.
Beyond the data, you'll see that I spent way too many hours studying for that test.
Without the data representing me, you'll see that I have to change the world or be changed by the world.
If you stop focusing solely on the data, you'd see that I deserve to be noticed.
Behind the data, you can see that there's more to me than my grades.
When the data is removed, I actually enjoy learning.
When you get rid of the data, you'll see that I actually know what I'm doing.
Beyond the data, I have my own needs to learn, and they are not the same as the person sitting next to me.
If you just look past the data, you'll see that I worry about what you think.
If you look past the data, you'll see I know the answers. I'm just afraid of being wrong.
You just don't know it. Yet.
Aren't our PVA kids really awesome?
How are y'all going to follow that up?
I'm asking the same question.
I'm glad I'm last.
So good evening. I'm Anthony Olson, the Executive Director of Equity and Accelerated Student Achievement. I first want to thank the students from our Performing and Visual Arts program for putting into focus for us the very reason we are here. Let's give them another round of applause. I think it's very important that we note just the amazing talent that we have within our school system. So these students choreographed this performance on their own based on a very brief conversation that we had with them with emphasis on the word yet. So I thank them very much for all of their hard work. Before I proceed, I would like to ask that the colleagues sitting here beside me to give them an opportunity to introduce themselves.
Michele Batten, Assistant Superintendent, Curriculum and Instruction.
Mary Talar, Assistant Superintendent, Advanced Studies and Programs.
Kathy Lane, Executive Director of Alternative Education.
President Korblack, members of the board, Dr. Olato. We met here with you last in July. We talked about our ongoing efforts to attack achievement, discipline, and opportunity gaps. In particular, our focus on changing our collective mindset. That focus, I believe, was voiced loud and clear by our students that you just saw and heard through one simple yet incredibly powerful word, yet. Across our system, we are challenging the notion of impossibility by changing mindsets. It's not that a student is failing at something, it's that he or she can't do it yet. It's not that a student hasn't completed a given task or assignment, it's just not done yet. As we present to you key data related to our work in closing gaps across our system, it is crucial that we are honest, that we say clearly that we're not where we want to be yet. We have not closed every gap yet. We're making the progress and moving every single one of our students forward. We are making that progress in a school system that has grown by more than 6,000 students in the past 10 years. It has more diversity among students than ever before. The number of Hispanic students has more than tripled in that time, as has the number of our English language learners. The number of pre-kindergarten students we educate has nearly doubled, and the number of students receiving free and reduced price meals is up 75%. And we ended last year with more than 1,300 homeless students. Our attention to and support to schools with significant gaps among student groups in either academic achievement or discipline has many facets, and you'll hear about many of those tonight. However, I want you to know clearly that it reaches every single corner of our school system. From the obvious, direct support of identified schools through regular meetings of our Executive Oversight Committee, to the variety of work in classrooms and schools around our county, we are doing everything we possibly can to unlock the potential of every single one of our students. Doing so, we must also unlock the potential of our employees, and our Division of Human Resources is playing a key role in that. This year, through our Teacher Diversity Recruitment Weekend, we were able to hire 25 of the 28 applicants, and we're supporting those new educators through mentoring and establishing cohorts of support. We're also offering ongoing additional professional development opportunities, as well as time to unpack and understand the curriculum. We must try the untraditional, and in that light, we've established a network of college fraternity brothers and sorority sisters to welcome our new hires in a familiar playing field through bonds that link through generations and spanned hundreds and thousands of miles. We are unwavering in our belief that in everything we must do, we must set our goals high and support our students and employees so that we can get there. In the words of Michelangelo, the greater danger for most of us lies not in setting our aim too high and falling short, but setting it too low and achieving our mark. I chose those words from one of our history's greatest artists intentionally, because we started this presentation with our own brilliant artists, our students. Every one of our students is an artist, and it's up to all of us to help them create the masterpieces of their lives. In those students, all of them, I want you to keep in mind that they represent this data. It is important that you understand that the changes in state testing mean that we no longer have the data that you have traditionally seen. The MSA is a thing of the past in both reading and mathematics, for example, and the data from its successor, PARC, is not yet available. We are, however, presenting to you data that is related to our strategic plan and that we believe provides a crucial measure of student success. Data is inherently number heavy, and the numbers that you will see are important. They are, however, far more than plots on a graph or bars on a chart. As you look at this data, I ask that you not lose sight of our children. Every number you see, every data point we report represents children, our children, precious children who are growing and nurturing. And so with that, I turn it over to the other members of our team.
The kindergarten readiness assessment was administered for the first time last fall. As shown by the blue bar, the data indicates that less than half of our students are ready for kindergarten when they arrive at our schools. The gaps are present before children even get to us. The good news is that by the end of the year, as reflected in the red bars, we are able to see tremendous growth. Utilizing the reading diagnostic tool Fontes and Pinnell, we see that 66% of our students are meeting expected grade level reading proficiency by the end of their kindergarten year. While we have not yet eliminated the gap, we have narrowed it significantly and seen consistent growth among all student groups from the beginning to the end of the year. In first grade, again using Fontes and Pinnell, we have not seen the same growth. We are anticipating the new kindergarten grade 1 curriculum with its dedicated focus on guided reading will help significantly move our literacy scores. We are very optimistic when we look at our baseline scores in second grade. We are seeing sizable gains across the board as we pursue our goals that all students leave second grade reading on grade level. I want to highlight our Hispanic, English language learners, and special education students, all of whom are showing above average growth. In the absence of MSA and PARCC data, we have closely examined the grades of our middle school students. While we realize that a grade of a D is passing, we encourage and support our students to aim higher and don't in any way want to send a message that a D will lead to future success. So the data we are showing you tonight is that of middle school students who earn a C or higher. As we look at the percentage of middle school students with language arts grades of C or higher over the last several years, you can see that the vast majority are doing well on their report cards. While the gaps are not being eliminated as quickly as we would like, 80% of all middle school students in 7 out of 10 student groups are earning a C or better in language arts. In math, we are seeing a lower level of performance, and the data show student groups are continuing to struggle with content knowledge. There have been significant changes in the middle school math curriculum at all grade levels in response to our transition to the Common Core math standards. There's an intense and intentional focus this year on improving math instruction, curriculum, and student performance. We are also seeing growth in middle school reading. The fall reading scores provide classroom teachers a snapshot of information to inform planning for each student's instructional needs. As a result of diagnostic planning on the part of classroom teachers, spring reading scores, as represented by the dark blue bars, show consistent growth over the last 5 years across all student groups. An important facet of elevating all students and eliminating all gaps is increasing rigor. World and classical language is a requirement for high school students and is a credit-bearing course earned in middle school. We are pleased we have narrowed the gap for 8 out of 10 students in this area, and with the fact that at least 80% of students in those groups are taking one or more high school level world and classical language course in middle school.
One of the areas in which we have seen great success is in our AVID program. Designed to support those who are in the academic middle, AVID prepares students, including those in groups traditionally underrepresented in colleges and universities, for more rigorous college preparatory coursework that will open the doors of college access and enrollment. The percentage of students in these groups enrolled in our AVID program have traditionally exceeded that in our overall student population, especially when it comes to African American, Hispanic, and farm students. Last year, over 90% of our high school students in AVID took an honors level course. 82% of the AVID seniors were accepted to at least one 4-year college, and AVID students as a whole earn more than $23 million in college scholarship offers. In addition to our Centers of Applied Technology, we offer 7 magnet middle and high school programs in 16 schools. They provide rigorous student-centered environments that give students a chance to learn with others who are passionate about the same topics. These programs have helped our school system close the access or opportunity gap. I am proud to share that the ethnicity representation in our magnet programs closely mirrors that for our school system. As with AVID, these students are also meeting with success. Last year, seniors in magnet programs earned more than $29.5 million in scholarship offers. As we talk about preparing students for college, we also look at the ACT and SAT. We have placed an intentional focus on ACT and SAT participation and have seen participation growth across student groups over the last 5 years. However, we realize that we still must do more. I assure you those efforts are continuing, and they include targeted engagement with College Board, the organization which developed and leads the administration of the SAT. There also continues to be a significant focus on student enrollment in advanced placement, IB, and honors courses. Our dedication to the promotion of rigorous coursework is evident in our most recent enrollment numbers. For the first time in 5 years, we saw enrollment gains in every student group. In fact, last year saw 94% of our high school students enrolled in at least one AP, IB, or honors course, as well as a closing of enrollment gaps across student groups. We also continue to encourage and support students to take AP and IB exams, including offering financial assistance options. Although we have seen growth in participation, we have inconsistency in students taking exams, and there remains some variability among the student groups. With regard to rigor, our biggest challenge for all student groups is increasing AP and IB exam scores. Although we have seen positive movement, we have not met our targets for students scoring 3 or higher on the AP exam or 4 or higher on the IB exam consistently across all student groups. With that said, we are testing more students, and our scores overall have remained constant. A particular highlight to note is the success of our English language learners, where the percentage of those meeting the standard moved from 41.7% to 52.4% last year. We are targeting our actions to help foster more success. Those efforts include offering students the opportunity to take mock exams, utilize online tutorials, and attend Saturday practice sessions. We are also helping teachers create a culture of academics and understand the AP/IB scoring practices with instructional strategies that focus on improving student performance. This includes professional development from College Board and the IB Regional Office.
Disproportionality is one of the most significant issues in education today. The results of decades of research consistently show that students of color, particularly African American students, and especially those who are economically disadvantaged or those with disabilities, are at significantly increased risk for experiencing exclusionary discipline practices, including office referrals and suspensions. Given the well-documented negative effects of exclusionary discipline on a range of student outcomes, including but not limited to graduation rates, our school system has intentionally addressed the issue by identifying where discipline gaps exist, taking steps to reduce them, and monitoring the effects of those interventions on disproportionality. We are pleased to share that over the past 5 years, we have reduced the number of students receiving 2 or more referrals by 9 percentage points, by nearly 9 percentage points. The drops are even greater among students receiving free and reduced price meals, those who experienced almost a 15 percentage point decrease. African American students, a 12.5 point drop, and special education students, a more than 9% decline. In that same time, we have seen a 3.6 percentage point decrease in the number of students receiving 6 or more referrals, with an almost 7 point decrease among farm students, nearly 6% drop for special ed students, and just less than 6% reduction for African American students. Furthermore, we have reduced the number of students receiving 1 or more suspensions by 6.9%, with more dramatic reductions for farm students, almost 11 points, African American students, nearly 10 points, and special education students by 9.5 points. This is very exciting and encouraging data, as we are successfully reducing the discipline gaps which has historically deterred us from achieving our overall objective of positive outcomes for students. As referrals and suspensions have decreased, we have seen graduation rates rise for all students by 5 percentage points. Again, there is even better news for our individual student groups. The graduation rate has risen by 14 points for special education students, nearly 6 points for African American students, and more than 6 points for farm students. While we have seen an almost 8 point increase for Hispanic students, the graduation rates for English language learners has fallen by just over 5 points. Over the past 10 years, our system has implemented PBIS with a focus on improving student behavior. We have shifted policy, procedures, and practices regarding student discipline from a reactive, exclusionary, and punitive approach to address student behaviors to a proactive, inclusive, and positive approach. Schools have done this by teaching students pro-social skills and building positive school climates, while developing an array of supports and interventions for students. Specifically, over the past 5 years, our schools have incorporated a multi-tiered system of support. so that students experiencing barriers to learning can access supports such as behavior support teams made up of alternative one teachers, decision-making room staff, and student advocates who implement evidence-based programs such as check-in, check-out, check-in connect, and expanded school-based mental health services, as well as promising practices such as restorative practices and community conferencing. Schools have maximized the use of evening high school, summer school, and twilight school. They've also developed individualized approaches to address the challenge of dropout rates by implementing programs such as GAP programs at Glen Burnie High School, the Mead Stable at Mead High School, and special education transition support facilitators in our high schools. As schools incorporate more strategies to reduce barriers to student learning, it is increasingly less likely that students will be excluded from the learning environment. Our laser-like focus on supportive instructional approaches to discipline and the integration with engaging instructional practices have successfully kept students in classrooms. In fact, PBIS schools gained back 116 days of instruction and 150 days of administrative time by reducing the number of students being referred to our office or suspended from school. As our discipline and graduation data demonstrates, Anne Arundel County Public School students in all student groups are increasingly in class with access to amazing opportunities for engaging and rigorous instruction. While we have not eliminated all gaps in discipline or graduation rates yet, our progress is promising and this elusive goal is within reach.
Thank you all for your contributions to the presentation this evening. President Korbelak, members of the board, Dr. Arlotto, I tell you without hesitation that this team and all that they represent has not rested and will not rest until all gaps are eliminated. We are proud of our successes and aware of our challenges. Our work, however, is not defined by a single set of data. Rather, it is a journey that we are traveling with approximately 80,000 children. And we are not afraid to say that we're not where we want to be yet. As we continue on this journey, we must ask ourselves, what will it take to get us where we want to go? What if we had a newcomer center to address the needs of our English language learners, many of whom come to us with interrupted educations and may not be literate in their own language? We don't have one yet. What if every 4-year-old in our county had access to a pre-kindergarten seat in one of our schools? They don't. Not yet. What if the demographics of our workforce mirrored our students? Despite Herculean efforts, they don't. Not yet. What if we could expand our highly successful AVID program, as you saw from that data, to include more school-wide programs and further expand our reach into more of our elementary schools? We haven't been able to. Not yet. What if we could allocate more funding to professional development to further support our educators so they can be in a better position to support and enhance achievement for all of our learners? That hasn't been the case yet. But more importantly, what if every single student who walks through our doors believes that nothing is impossible and that their potential is truly unlimited? That's the growth mindset that will get us to where we want to go. We're not there yet, but I have no doubt that we will be. Thank you for your time. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Mrs. Ritchie.
Thank you all very much. And I think when I looked at the data, we also have to remember that we had a change in the Common Core coming in, so that was all a thing. I don't think we lost a lot. We may not have made major gains, but we also have to look at the whole big picture of what was going on. And so to be able to maintain in the challenge of that, I think says something, because that was there was a lot of stuff happening with Common Core and so forth. So I think that being able to maintain without losing, while it's not great, is better than losing and then having to gain back what we lost. So, and a lot of what you talked about in your closing remarks, Mr. Alston, had to do with initiatives, seats for kids in pre-K, things like that, all things that take money. So we as a school system can only do so much. There's only so many hours in a day. There's only so many seats that are available in our schools. There's only so many teachers that are available to teach. So we have to also rely on the community as a whole. And we have to rely on the community as a whole to step up and say that education is important. And it's important in our county. We'll hear stuff about how we take 50% of the budget. Well, the fact is, we're educating the future of our county. If we want people to come here and work, and we want people to come here and live, then we have to be able to provide the education and the opportunities for students that we are trying to provide. But every time we only get maintenance of effort, and we don't get any more, but we keep adding more students in, we're going to continue to not be able to close the achievement gap, because this becomes a societal issue as well as an educational issue. I know that each and every person in this room, all the people in our schools, are working as fast as they can and as hard as they can. I have no doubt in that, and all the times we go through the schools and we visit. I don't doubt that at all. Would we be able to give all the things that we'd like to be able to give? Absolutely. But the fact of the matter is that until society in Anne Arundel County decides that education is a priority and an investment in the future of our county, we will never close the gap.
Mrs. Summer.
I have a question for the data, and maybe something that you can get me later. The kindergarten readiness test, we have the large percentage who are not ready when they come into kindergarten. Do we have a breakdown for how many of our children who went through our pre-K are ready when they come to kindergarten? Can we?
Yes, we can provide you with that data.
Okay, so that we can see the difference that pre-K is making. What percentage of our children that are coming in not ready did not have the benefit of pre-K, so that we can see, I think we'll see a big difference for the ones who were given the quality than the ones who weren't able to. I was thrilled to see that the STEM enrollment so closely mirrors. I mean, it's almost exact. It's amazing how it mirrors the breakdown of our county, and that's great to see that everyone is getting access of that. And one other just kind of procedural question. When you give Fontes and Pinnell in the spring, when do they give that? Is it like in June or is it April?
It's usually a 4-week window that starts in May.
Starts in May. So it's at the very end of the year. So we're really getting a good picture from the beginning of the year to the end of the year.
Correct.
As to where they are. Yeah. Thank you.
Dr. Frank.
Thank you very much for your presentation. As you know, there are many assets that need to be taken into account to have children do well in school, and we certainly have a good superintendent, hopefully a good school board, good staff, but ultimately I think it goes back to mom and dad. Have you looked at any data to find out of the kids that are not doing well in school, how many of them have both a mom and a dad at home?
No, we haven't. Our data doesn't always indicate that because it's based on the information that's completed on their emergency cards. So we have to a degree, but it's not always consistent information based on that data.
Is it possible that you could gain that information without getting into privacy of people's lives? Because I have, I've looked at some data that nationwide, that's the primary reason kids don't do well in school, and I'm not sure what we can do about that except get the word out that for kids to do well in school, you need to have a mom and a dad at home. And I think that's where it all starts.
So if I could just jump in, Dr. Frank, I appreciate your comments. That's not data that we collect now. I don't see us anytime in the near future going after that data. One is because we'll have to rely on the families to give us that data. But what we focus on and what the teachers around this room focus on throughout the county is what we can do on a day-to-day basis with the students in the classroom. And so, while I don't think anybody in this room would disagree with you, the importance that education starts at home, no question about it. We really have to continue to look at the data and what we can influence on a day-to-day basis during the 5 days each week that we have the children.
Mr. Webb.
Thank you, Ms. Korbelak. I appreciate all the efforts that you all put into this, but I'm a bit concerned that I'm a bit concerned that I can't put the picture together as far as where we were and where we are now, and the changes from the reporting we did before and the reporting we are doing now. And so that makes it difficult for me to go back to the concerned community and really express to them that the efforts we've made over the last year or so and the changes we've made have really paid off.
So the challenge that we had was that we don't have complete MSA data. So in the past, you've been accustomed to seeing our MSA scores and doing the comparison of student groups from over the series of years and combining that with HSA data. So with the switchover, as we had with the state has done to Park, we no longer have MSA data. So we didn't administer MSA last year with the exception of MSA Science and our students in 5th and 8th grade. So we don't have that reading and math MSA scores that traditionally accustomed to seeing to draw that comparison over that linear period of time, which is why we had to look at different data points because the other data were in a quandary as with all the other counties within the state of not having that data.
So I truly have no measurable against what we've done in the past.
Not in regards to state testing, not at this point. And we won't have that until we start getting our Park scores.
Now, how do we avoid that in the future? How do we establish a baseline that doesn't deviate for future years if there is some change in a Park assessment or an MSA or whatever else comes down the pike?
As long as we're using state data, we're depending upon the state and the nation in regards to the data that we have and when it's available to us. So as a system, we thought, as with other systems in our jurisdictions, that MSA was the assessment that we were using for quite some time. And so we have that MSA data. With the national transition to Park and the pilot and how we administered and rolled out Park, we don't have that. So we will continue to collect Park data as it comes. But if the state determines that Park is no longer the assessment that we're going to use, and we transition to another assessment, we're in that same predicament.
Yeah, I know. At some point, I'd like to delve a little deeper into this information.
Absolutely.
Because right now, I don't feel comfortable explaining to the concerned population in our community that we're really getting to where we want to be as far as eliminating the opportunity/achievement gap. Also on the front of discipline, the changes that we've seen in discipline, are we sure that that may not be changes just because we've redefined what is considered a suspensable defense?
As I mentioned, Mr. Webb, we've taken a two-pronged approach, and one is the prevention is teaching students by way of the consistent expectations that these teachers put into their classrooms and their schools, their hallways, and their cafeterias, letting students know what the expectations are in preventing any negative student behaviors. On the back end, when students maybe make a bad choice, which adolescents are prone to do, we have developed the supports in the schools that didn't exist in the past. I mentioned our Alternative 1 teachers, our decision-making rooms, our student advocates, who have been organized into a framework of behavioral support, who then can respond to the student without a referral or suspension having to occur, where you're holding that student accountable for the behavior that they've exhibited, but more in an instructive way, where we're teaching the student how to behave more appropriately in the future. And we could see that this is working effectively in our recidivism rates. That's the 6 or more referrals, because students are learning to change their behaviors by these interventions, and that's why we're not seeing them continually exhibit the same behaviors.
Is insubordination still a referable offense?
Yes, sir. According to our student code of conduct, insubordination is a referable offense.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I just had a question, also probably something you can get us later. On the pie chart where you have the overall magnet student population reflecting the AACPS student population, we're just curious about the STEM group, like the male-female breakdown, and the same data that was in the pie chart specifically for STEM. Just wondering if we're getting some of these lovely young women to go into STEM.
We are seeing great diversity as well as in gender, but I can get you more data if you'd like to have it broken down on each of the magnets.
Thank you. I don't have any more board comments, but I have 2 public comments. Mr. Webb.
Thank you. Just one more question. Are we still using that four section form for referrals?
Yes, sir.
And are we doing an audit on those forms?
We have not, to my knowledge, done an audit last year. There were several years ago, there was an audit done on discipline referrals.
Okay, so I wouldn't have any way of knowing whether or not all referrals submitted by teachers have been passed down the chain of command at this point?
Ms. Corblack, I can't hear.
We could look into that for you, Mr. Webb.
Okay, thank you.
Mrs. Hummer.
Also, just another data point again. Can I, a later time, get the breakdown for our farm population, what the ethnic breakdown is for our farm population? Just to see that. And also for our special ed population, what the ethnic breakdown is for that. Thank you.
Okay, now I have Janet Norman and Lisa Miller to comment on this item.
Thank you, Dr. Arlotto, President Corblack, and the board. I'm here to ask for your tangible action. I'm Janet Norman from Annapolis Cluster Schools, Annapolis High and Annapolis Middle, and Hillsmere, and many other schools I support. I'm here to ask for your tangible action to close the achievement gap. As an active parent in the Annapolis cluster, I see every day and every year the huge challenges our teachers deal with to help our low-income and non-native speaker students succeed. Annapolis has 32% of your entire county's Title I high-poverty elementary schools. I was sick to my stomach to hear that the stipend for teachers working in challenge schools of high poverty was eliminated. Our dynamic, highly qualified, engaging teachers at Annapolis High, Annapolis Middle, Bates Middle, Georgetown East, Germantown, Eastport Elementary, Mills Parole deserve better than a pay cut.
Ms. Norman, this is for commenting on their presentation. We were told that you wanted to comment on their presentation.
I wanted to comment on the achievement gaps, and I'm going to be addressing things that they've talked about.
Okay, because the pay is a different item.
Oh, but it relates to the achievement gap. Yeah. Okay. So these teachers work way beyond the bell for our achievement gap students striving for academic proficiency and success. We've made incredible progress under Principal Chittum towards a more focused student body, less discipline issues. She can make this progress with top-notch teachers that connect to our teens. And to see those teachers on the verge of leaving our school is so unnecessary. My son will tell you how great Mr. Schmidt, Ms. Cephas, Mr. Gandhi, Mr. Milkovich, and Mr. Chang, Ms. Bowser, and many other Annapolis High teachers are, and how much less learning would occur if those teachers were not there. We're not going to get there tweeting how awesome we are. We need to pay our awesome teachers in challenge schools. I also want to tell you some things that some of the teachers and guidance counselors in our middle schools are telling me that they can't say to you for fear of job repercussions. You are not closing the achievement gaps by eliminating disciplinary measures that they need to use. Our demoralized teachers are reporting that students realize there is no consequence to disruptive behavior. And many of our longtime dedicated teachers are strongly considering leaving our middle schools, and that breaks my heart. You need to use evidence-based measures like well-paid, high-quality teachers, safe and healthy school start times when students' brains are awake. probably not many of your other clusters have had parent field trip chaperones punched on field trips. Our challenge schools have. The Achievement Gap students are selling heroin down the road from me at Quiet Waters Park, and I want that to change. Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to ask, I appreciate your enthusiasm, but we have 3 hours and 15 minutes worth of public comments that I have cards on. And every time we applaud, you're extending the evening. And out of respect for our students who are here to speak, I would ask that we try to move this along. Mrs. Birge?
I wanted to say something similar, and I wanted to see if Miss Norman was aware, as she's asking for this, that the teachers union has ratified this agreement. No, it was a mediated agreement. We went to mediation, and the teachers union has ratified it already. Okay, I wanted to make sure you knew that. It was a mediated agreement that two groups came to together, and the teachers union has already ratified it.
Lisa, you're next. If this is truly about the presentation that we just had, otherwise I'm going to have to add you to the pile for the teachers' comments.
It refers to it. My name is Lisa Miller. I live in Edgewater. I have had one child at Central Middle and one at South River. The previous agenda item was an update on closing the achievement gap. Missing from that presentation is a positive impact later middle and high school start times would have. The Brookings Institute's Hamilton project proposed 3 ways to reorganize schools that could reap tremendous benefits for student achievement. Later start times was the first of the 3 proposals. Early start times is the same as an ineffective teacher. We would take steps to improve a poor teacher's instructions. So why not alter start times to get the same or better results? More importantly, disadvantaged students benefit twice as much as advantaged students from later start times. A study in North Carolina found that delaying middle schools by an hour increases standardized test scores by at least 2 percentile points in math and 1 percentile point in reading. The effect is largest for students with below average test scores, suggesting that later start times would narrow gaps in student achievement. The effects of later middle school start times continued into students' high school years. I urge the Board of Education to set clear parameters for healthy school hours, which would positively reinforce the importance of closing the achievement gap and academic improvement. These could include an 8:30 a.m. start time for middle and high school, 8 a.m. start for middle or for elementary schools, 7 a.m. as the earliest bus pickup, and 3:30 as the last release. I know that there are obstacles to achieving this and closing the achievement gap. I feel confident that the board can find solutions to whatever obstacles may arise in making later start times a reality.
Is there anyone else wishing to speak on item 2.09, the presentation we just had? Okay.